ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's a South Texan poppy poet living that hashtag middle class gay life. It's Chibi.
She's a little bit Selena, a little bit J-Lo, and a whole lot of Pisces. It's Rocky.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out
and Gemini's Productions. Hola, Raquelita.
Hola, Chibi. Hi, friend.
How are you?
Good. I really love it when my friends call me Raquelita. It's very much familial, and it reminds me a lot of home too. So thank you so much for calling me Raquelita.
Oh, well, speaking of home, you're not in your home right now. You're in this fancy little recording studio right now.
Is it a fancy recording studio?
Legit microphone.
Oh, I guess so. I guess people can see now. I'm blushing.
Wait, I have a question then. Because you've lived all over, right? You were in San Antonio, you were in Houston, you were in Jersey, now you're in New York. Where feels like home for you? Ooh. What feels most home?
Yeah, and you also forgot I lived in Puerto Rico too.
That too.
Yeah. So, I think I narrow it down to 3 different places. Actually 4. It's just 4.
You're
all of them. Oh, basically, right? I think I claim them all as home. It took so I will say that Jersey is home. I don't talk about Jersey as much just because I feel like I didn't come to consciousness of who I am as a person in New Jersey, but it definitely, my childhood is in Jersey. So is Puerto Rico. I was in Bayamón, and I think that is where my identity as a Puerto Riqueña, Borican, this instillness of resilience and so much history was there. So that's home too. Mm-hmm. I do not claim Houston as home. I claim San Antonio as home.
Wow.
Sorry, Houston. I think because Houston was so blunt and violent with its racism that I've never experienced before, from New Jersey, where I was filled with Puerto Ricanos, and then coming over here to Houston, where people were where's Puerto Rico? And I'm just oh, it's part of the United States. It's this little island. And immediately people were well, it's below the border. So you're still an undocumented person. You're illegal. And it's just but I'm not, because it's a territory of the United States. And then Brooklyn too. I've really come to really love Brooklyn. So yeah, I love Brooklyn. The majority, I love being around places that have water. So Brooklyn is close to the Atlantic Ocean and the Hudson River. Puerto Rico is surrounded by the whole entire ocean. Mm-hmm. San Antonio with the river, right? The sacred Yanawane River. And then New Jersey as well with the waterfront and the Atlantic Ocean. So sorry, that was all things. But yes, you asked me what home is. Home is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And with people too, right? Chosen family, as a queer person, we make homes with our family as well, our chosen fam. How about you, friend? Do you have a smaller? Because you're all over the place too. You have Mexico, you have Laredo, you have Houston, Austin, and San Antonio.
And for a brief moment, Dublin, but that was a blip, just a little blip.
Dublin, and
Ireland.
Ireland. I didn't know that. Stop! I didn't know that. We're learning so.
I did a semester abroad in college and lived for the 4 months in Dublin, and I loved it. It was. I thought I was going to be miserable because of the weather, but it was gorgeous. The people were wonderful. I had a great experience. But when I think of where I feel home, so one is definitely my parents' house. I grew up in that house. We had it since I was 5 or 6, right? So all my childhood, post college, moving back in with the parents, like many millennials did.
Yeah.
and like reforming myself and all of that, where, Laredo itself doesn't feel very homey, but that house does, right? I feel really comfortable there, especially when nobody else is home. I'm like, Mom and Dad, you're going out of town for the weekend? I may go down. And then 2, it's my current home with my husband.
Yes.
And where it feels most is like the couch in the living room, because we'll like snuggle up under our blankets and hold hands and watch movies and, TV shows and spend some time. And then, like maybe the kitchen is home. I think, I feel a little bit like a cat, a kitty cat, in that I've heard that cats attach themselves to places more than people a lot of the times, right?
Okay.
And that's why even if like a family moves out, like the cat might like stay behind and still live in the area or something like that. Like that's what I've heard.
Oh, is that like why there's like a lot of stray cats and like they continue coming back for the food and like home?
Yeah.
Yes.
So anywho.
Very, very poetic. It feels like I'm just giving you like logistics of like, yes, this place is, and you're like the home, the couch, the kitchen. I was like, you're such a poet. You're such a fucking poet.
Oh, well, myself. It's just the way I'm built. Okay. That's a little Texas heart. But speaking of home in Texas and Texas poets, our guest today, not only is native Texan, multiracial, queer, but is the founder of a publishing press wherein she's trying to provide a home for other writers. So I'm so excited to get into this conversation. Raquel, would you please introduce our guest?
Of course. I'm so excited. So Diamond Braxton, was she, they, pronouns as a queer, mixed race, Black Chicanx writer, editor, and educator based in Texas. Their work appears in Best Microfiction 2023, Sundress Publications, Best of the Net, Anthology, The Forge, Extinction, Hellward Press, ANMLY, and others. She's a Lambda Literary Retreat Fellow from cohort of 2023, an Eighton House 2021 workshop alum. She's the founder of the new intersectional anti-racist publishing press called Adobe Press.
Abode.
Oh my God. So I'm so sorry. Little flip. Abode. Did I start again?
No, we're good.
Okay. Anti-racist publishing press called Abode Press. And she is working on her first collection of genre-bending short stories. Learning more at www.diamondgisellebraxton.com, or you can find them at Diamond G Braxton on everything else.
This is our conversation with Diamond Braxton.
Hi, Diamond.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. It's so excited to have you here and to have you on our show. I'm really excited to talk to you, to listen to your poetry. So yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Always excited to highlight local Texas multiracial queer artists on the show.
I know. I actually, because you were coming on today's show, I usually wear black, but I was like, I'll wear Sailor Moon because what's more queer than Sailor Moon?
I love that. I wore black for us together.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. I very much appreciate it.
You were one of the Sailor Moons. Which one would you be?
Which one?
Oh, man.
Both of you.
Oh, I don't know if I would be one. Yes, I think I like Sailor. Oh my gosh. Is it Uranus? That was the one that no, is it Neptune? Which one was like the cousins, but they were dating? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not at all.
I'm going to be real. I actually did not watch Sailor Moon growing up.
Oh my God. Okay, so queer lore. So in Sailor Moon, there were two, like towards the very end, there were two different types of sailors. But the thing was that they were like the United States did not want them to be be lovers, so they were cousins, which was so weird because the sexual tension of not only were they flirting with each other, but also it was like they were flirting with Sailor Moon too, and it almost felt like they were trying to do like some type of like threesome throuple thing.
Wow.
And it was just like, what is going on here? And it's like, oh, later on, it's like, yes, it's because everything was queer. They were definitely gay. They were
cousins.
Yes.
This is why the show is called Words and Shit, because we'll take some hard tangents.
I love it.
In the words. I did watch it as a kid, but I've done too many drugs since then. I don't remember it at all. So
happens to the best of us.
Well, enough about Sailor Moon. Let's jump in with you, shall we?
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. We always love to start, the session with a very warm welcome because we want to get to know you. And we're going to know that we're going to be friends towards the very end of this. So, Diamond, how is your heart today?
My heart. Oh my gosh. I just had to breathe. So actually today, a lot's been going on, but I would say really great things, but I have like high functioning anxiety. So I'm like, oh my God, so many things are happening. But we'll probably get into this at some point, but I am the founder of this new press and we actually announced our accepted authors today. And so I actually had to put my phone on like the personal mode because all of my socials were like bing, 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 bing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. But it's just a really great day because we finally got to make the announcement after I think it's been like almost a year while we've been kind of starting the press and then going through submissions. So it's been a very long period of time. So I would say my heart is in a really good place today, actually. And it is a Friday. And so there's a lot of just good things in that.
I love that. And we absolutely are going to dive into Abode, which I know I've confessed to you, Diamond, but apparently it happened to Rocky also. She saw it, she read it, and she was like, Abode.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It happens more than you all think because even my friends who I tell, like I'm around them all the time and I'm speaking about Abode. My friend Saint recently was just like, oh, hey, can I have an Adobe sticker? And I was like, ew, my gosh. It keeps getting switched up with Adobe. And at first I was like, oh, that's so cute. And now I'm like, I don't think anyone's going to know who we are because of this.
That's hysterical. No, you're making a presence, damn it. You are out there and making impact. They're going to know. So before we get into all of that, we like to tease our audience a little bit with a little appetizer, amuse-bouche, a quick who is Diamond Braxton. So we're going to do our session called speed dating, in which we're going to ask you 4 questions. And we encourage you to respond as succinctly as possible, but please feel free to answer however you want. Okay. So first question, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my gosh, Almost There from Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I see you. Okay. We're almost there. Because we're almost there. Yes.
How you knew it right off the top.
Yeah. When you said Princess Tiana, I was like, what rapper is that? I'm like, am I old? I was like, I don't, we have Ice Spice coming out and I'm just like, who is that? And I'm like, oh no, you really meant.
I love all the Disney songs. I can't lie.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that one. I've never seen The Princess and the Frog because I'm lame.
We're going to have a movie night.
Whoa.
Okay. Wow. Did I just get canceled off my own show?
I a little bit. I think so. I really do think so. No, I pretty much love that. I think for me, I love to do Going the Distance with Hercules. That's the one that like motivates me.
That was good. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know that one? Perfect. Amazing. Okay. Diamond. It's so funny because we do our research for you, or yeah, about you before we move on. And I was able to find like baby pictures of yourself, like in your teenage years, and like you look amazing. Like your makeup has always been on point, but it looked like you had a little emo face. So, with this, were you an emo kid, and what is your favorite emo band?
Oh my God. This is hilarious. Okay, yes, I was definitely an emo kid. That was my like late middle school era and early high school era. And I think I fell back into it in early college. I can't lie. So I'm gonna have to say this is probably everyone's answer. Probably not, but I still listen to them. Paramore.
Amazing.
Yeah, 3 Days Grace. Yeah, we'll probably stick there. But that was my era.
Okay. I was more of a Coheed and Cambria and AFI emo kid. But yes, if you dig deep into the internet, you will find little emo chibi.
Me too. Don't worry. Me too. I really did love a good Blink 182 trap. And what was it? I wanted to say Foo Fighters, but Foo Fighters is not really like emo. No, but Good Charlotte. Oh my gosh, did I put Good Charlotte on repeat?
Not Rocky stalking Diamond before the episode.
We always have to
stop.
stop.
All right, my next question and my last question, and I ask this question of everybody that comes on the show. What is your favorite thing to eat? Whether it be like a specific item or a whole meal, or what is your favorite thing to eat?
Okay, I know the answer to this. Soup. I am a soup girly. I love it in every form it comes in.
Yes.
I eat so much soup. Like, it's soup. There's no other answer. Even in the summer, I'm getting like caldo de pollo. I'm getting pho. Like, I'm getting all the soup.
See, I knew I liked you for a reason. That caldo is my love language.
Me too. There's something so much about like a broth, a really good broth. Like, it has my heart.
Please stop. I'm so hungry now.
Okay. So this is my last question, right? And I think because we are among queer fam here, my favorite thing is being queer, right? Being a queer Latina. So I want to know, like, what about your queerness makes you feel like you have like a superpower? Like, what part of that?
Oh, okay. I love how these questions, my answers are really just coming to me faster than I expected. I'm going to have to go with my fluidity. So I really lately I've been kind of feeling more andron, but I do like being like super high femme or like very masc. And I love that. Like, that feels like my superpower. I feel like I get to be 2 or 3 different people in one body, and it feels really good. But my closet's too big. So,
are you a Gemini?
No, I'm a Leo.
Oh, but do you know all 3?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go. What's your
okay? So what balances me out is I have a lot of water in my chart. So I'm a Scorpio moon and I'm a Pisces rising. My Scorpio moon I am emotional. I can't lie. But I'm aspiring to be a Pisces.
That's amazing because I am a Pisces. So
Pisces are great.
But my moon is in Leo.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
We flipped it and reversed it.
Yeah. Yes, we did. So I definitely know, like, deep down, I tell people this, like, I will admit that I'm vain. I think that's okay to say that I'm like, I love being vain a little bit. Like, I will stop inside, and if there's a mirror, I will be like,
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Like, what is this?
Self-love is the most important kind of love.
Yes.
And on some random note, I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it is written in iambic pentameter.
Wait, really?
Amazing.
There you
I
go.
love that.
I just taught 8th graders iambic pentameter last week. And so I was like, modern examples. Welcome to the Hotel California. Iambic pentameter. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Iambic pentameter.
Did they get those references though?
They did. They were naming the bands. And I was like, yes.
Okay, because I was talking to like a 23-year-old and I was talking about like Maná or Juanes, and they're like, that's la música de las madres. And I was like,
Okay, so to get as far away from that as possible, speaking of poetry, before we really dive into this conversation, Diamond, can you open us up?
Yes, I can. Okay, so if I'm looking in this direction, it's because it's on my other monitor. So I promise I'm still here. This is actually called "A Disappointed Mother is a Haunted House." The body is a house. The house that kept a roof over your head, that was rented by a single mother in her little disappointment. Faint whispers of, "You are not who I raised," echo through the hallways of the stomach lining, passing through the insides of a woman who grew you into a being. A woman who whispered soft lullabies of expectations against her round, brown belly skin. How long before the disappointment spills from her body, infecting your childhood room, the well-loved kitchen, the corners you used to hide in? The echoes of her wails vibrate the walls, prickling the hairs on your wrists. And when the screams crescendo and her spirit haunts your nightmares, demanding you to abandon your dreams and wake up. You do wake up, eyes open, back in your own home, the home filled with spoiled cats and potted plants and queer flags. The spirits here are kindred. They whisper in your dreams, telling you to stay true, stay you. Mira, there's your abuelo in the corner, playing the trumpet as Papa threw away when he was 6. There's your uncle holding hands with a man you've never seen before, their translucent skin reflecting the bits of sunshine coming through the window pane. Mira, out past the window pane, there's your father, age 10, throwing baseballs with his dad, the dad he never got to have. No more prison, no more bars. Mira, they left the door open. The door is open. Thank you.
amazing.
Heart. Rest real quick. I love that you opened up with something so personal and so vulnerable, right? And really took us through this journey with you and your family. Do you find that it's easy to write about those closest to you, or like does it show up a lot? And how do they feel about it?
Yeah, it's funny. So I do write fiction and poetry, and so fiction sort of interrogates the things that I talk about in poetry, but I guess in a fictionalized sense. And in poetry, I find myself realizing that the reason I kind of question the intersections of like race and queerness and class are oftentimes because of where I come from in my family. And so it pops up a lot. I mean, I think my poetry is mainly about me. And I feel like it kind of gives me that point to have that exploration, because in fiction, I don't get to have that. And so in poetry, I kind of get to talk about myself in a way that I don't really feel like I can have with my prose. And so it's sort of that exploration of myself and my family and why we believe the things that we do and say and feel. And it kind of feels like therapy, honestly. So that's sort of how my poetry is going right now, is more of just questions about myself and where I come from and my family. And in terms of how they feel about it, I did read that piece in front of my mom like last year. And I texted her beforehand about it. And I was like, I just want you to know that, like, I know that we're okay now. And this is more of a conversation about the past and what we went through. And in addition, it's bigger than me. There are a lot of queer people who don't have that with their parents. And it still opens up for this pathway for possibly the door opening at the end. So I wanted her to know it came from a place of we're healed. But I still feel like people need to hear these things. So she's very receptive to it. My other family, they don't read my stuff. And I'm kind of hoping they don't. I love them so much, but they're all very like traditional, and I'm very worried about if they read my things.
Yeah, I have in my book, I have a poem called Oral Fixation, or Mom, Don't Read This Poem. And when she got the book, she's like, I read your book. It's amazing. I skipped the one you told me to skip.
Smart. That's smart. I might do that.
Amazing. Love it. Love it. Speaking of your family, I think it's very interesting that you have like this like dynamic and representation of being Black and Chicana, and as well as being queer, as also being like just a queer person who has all these different identities, moving through that. So I kind of want to, I know you're talking about, you're writing certain things about like your family values. So what values are you trying to embrace with your multitudes of identity in your poetry? And then like, what ones are you trying to challenge?
Ooh, okay. Yeah. So, as I've grown older, I realized that I am not a capitalist, and I don't. I actually don't agree with anything or most of the things that I was taught to believe. And even growing up in Texas, and you're taught like the Alamo was a tragedy, and then you grow up and you realize, wait, we won. Why was what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up and kind of felt like everything I was told was a lie. And what's been interesting is I've been reading a lot of theory, putting myself in community groups with people that share similar identities with me. And so when I was getting into like Chicana feminisms, a big root of it is intersectionality. And ever since I learned about intersectionality, it was literally just me learning about myself. It was just like, there's a saying that I've been hearing a lot that's like, we can't be free until we're all free. And that's something that I have been really thinking about a lot lately, because being in an intersectional body, holding multi-identities, if my queer self, gets certain rights or something like that, but my Black self doesn't, or my Latinx side doesn't, then I'm not all free, which means not all of the people who love me are either. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting living in an intersectional body, but it also makes it so easy to understand that. It makes it very easy to understand that language, because I'm looking at all sides. I'm looking at my queer friends, my Black family, my Mexican family, and I'm seeing people who probably think that they're all very separate and different, and not realizing that they all probably want the same things for themselves. And so what my work ultimately is trying to do is trying to better allow for people to understand that there are intersections between everything. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, because when you come from traditional families that believe in working up the corporate ladder, being straight, being cis, and following these ideals to be successful in a country that says you have to do those things, you're constantly feeling like the black sheep or whatever. But what I want my family, and not just my family, but they're sort of the root of why I started all this searching, but just anyone who might have the same traditional values or uphold Western ideals and things like that, is to sort of just realize everyone is the same. If you're essentially not at a 1%, you're a part of some sort of marginalized body, whether you're in working class or you want certain rights for yourself that you probably are never going to get, that you were told that you could have. And so I guess that's what it is like, I'm just trying to pull the lid off of these things that we were told that were supposed to be truth, and that they're not. And that ultimately a lot of the people who we look different than, we still have intersections with them. And we should still want people that look different than us or identify different than us to have things that we have, or to, whether it's like flip that around essentially.
Yeah, not the Pisces coming in with the deep cut questions off the bat. It's so true. I always like to say that I'm a recovering Catholic, right? And it's a lifelong journey of recovery. And in order for that recovery to happen, there needs to be an elevation of marginalized voices, of counter narratives, of there needs to be a platform for that to happen, so that other people can unlock, truths and tear down misconceptions. And you do that in your work, but you also do that in your work as the founder of a press that focuses on making space for marginalized writers. I know around this time last year, you were just kind of starting that. We had a little conversation at AWP, and this year you will be going to AWP officially as a press. Anyone listening to this that doesn't know, AWP is the Association for Writers and Writing Programs. It's the largest writing conference in the world, I think.
Yes.
So tell us about the journey to start this, and like so legitimately too. Like I'm the editor-in-chief of an indie press, but it's just me. You have like a full staff.
Good for you.
Yeah. I felt like, to answer the full staff thing, I'm also in my master's program right now. And so there was this immediacy. So I've always wanted to start a press, but I felt like it needed to happen in the middle of my master's program, because that's when we started having the reintroductions of censorship and book bans again.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're in Texas. So of course, our state is at the forefront of that, per usual. And so another thing that I always kept questioning were, why are the top 5 publishing houses in New York? I personally don't think I can read another New York story. I think like those are great, but like I've read too many books based in New York, because I think those books get published first because all the houses are there. Nothing wrong with New York. I love New York, but I want to read more stories in the Midwest, in the South. I want to read more stories from international writers. I just want to read more stories set in different places. And so when censorship and book bans started up again, I just felt like I want something in the South that is a publishing house. And we do have them, like Deep Vellum is here. Like there's a lot of presses and stuff like that. But I just felt like I really wanted to add to the landscape, and I wanted to be a part of something, because I had this vision and I was coming up with names, and I was sort of thinking about like doing rebel press, because I really wanted us to be rebels and all this stuff. And the more I thought about it, though, I was like, but what are we trying to do? And so I kept coming back to my values and how I felt. And so I kept thinking about intersectionality, and I was like, well, who do I imagine being in my little house with being in my, so I thought about casita, and I think that one was taken, so I was like, oh, maybe I'm in my little house with my friends in my little casita or casa, and then it just kind of dawned on me that I want a boat. I want stories that feel like home. I want stories that feel like culture. And that remind me of origins and where people come from. I want to hear about all kinds of people. And I think in order to promote intersectionality and differences, we have to, like you said, hear from people that are different from us and raise marginalized voices and underrepresented writers to see that. So that's how I came up with that name. It did have to go through that iteration period of what about this? What about this? What about this? But it feels right. Like it feels like I like that it's 5 letters. It's easy to make stickers for. Like I like it. So after that, I found Texas Accountants Lawyer of the Arts, and it's actually pretty affordable. So they help nonprofits with their legalities and stuff. So I got a legal team to do all of my paperwork, because I'm a writer and I don't understand that stuff. So they were able to like help me with all of the 501c3 things. And then after that, I started shooting my shot with a bunch of writers that I admired and just said, would you want to do this with me? And surprisingly, pretty much all of them said yes. That was wild. I didn't think that was going to happen. So I'm working with people I never thought I would get to work with, that believe in the mission and that want to support. And we're volunteers. So everyone's doing this from the goodness of their hearts. And so in order to thank my people for helping me, I launched all these workshops that we offer that are extremely affordable. There's like $10 minimum, and everyone on staff can attend them for free, just because we're providing, everyone on staff is also a writer. So it's like, I want to provide you with tools and, accessible opportunities to at least help you with your craft if I can't pay you right now. But what I have been doing is applying for a lot of grants. So we did get our first grant with Futurefront. Yeah, I'm so excited. They're a women and LGBTQ organization based in Austin, and they help a bunch of nonprofits like ours or just small businesses by women and LGBTQ creators. And so getting that micro grant, like really just kind of put us on the map, I think, because it allowed more people to discover who we are. And because of it, we got to acquire more chapbooks. So I think we would have only been able to get 4, but now we were able to get 8 because of it. So it also just helped us like get more books, which is great. And yeah, I mean, I think that's mostly it, but I think there's a lot more. But, we're going to go to AWP, which I'm extremely excited about. We're going to have a very BIPOC offsite reading, which I think is going to be huge. I just want it to be in more like queer spaces of color. And so I was like, I could wait for somebody to do that, or I could just do it myself because I want to be around all the queer POC gays personally. So we are going to have an offsite, and we're tabling at table 3335. And then I'm also going to be on a panel where I'm talking to some other indie presses about how we're amplifying marginalized voices. So that's sort of our trajectory. But I think starting this year, we're going to be launching 4 books, which means a lot of offsites and a lot of events. So I think this is the year where I think we had a really good start, but now it's like, okay, we're here, we're having readings. Where are we putting books? Mm-hmm. What kind of cute little packages are we coming up with for our authors? Are they getting like podcasts or not podcasts, like playlists with their chapbooks? Or are we going to we've been thinking of really fun ideas. So a lot of the chapbooks talk about food. So I've been thinking about having a little recipe card that comes with the chapbooks, just fun little things to kind of immerse people in somebody else's like culture or life or story.
Amazing. I love all of that. That's super, super fun. I also wanted to like bring it back to the adobe of like the casita, your home, which I think is very important. Like you're following in the like basically the footsteps of iconic queer Black women, right? When we think about like Kitchen Table, right? Women of Color Press with like Audre Lorde and Barbara Smith, and how they started that in the 1980s. And now you're here, you know, still trying to like, I think the home has been so designated for Latinas or those who are like super feminine. And it's like, no, but we want this like warm welcoming. So I really wanted to say that. But for AWP, the one that you were talking about, a very queer BIPOC reading, right? Going back to like echoing some of our queer elders, like Gloria Anzadula, of like Too Queer, the writer, like what makes a very queer BIPOC reading? And like to it's the question, right? Do you write because you're, you know, are you a queer writer because you're queer or because you write queer things? Same thing if you were like Black or Chicanx, you know, it's just like, is our writing all of this? Sorry, it's a long little spiel, but yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And what is going to be really fun is seeing what everybody reads. So with most of these writers, I think I've heard most of them, but they all talk about different stuff. So sometimes they bring in their queerness, but I feel like there are more discussions on class and race. And their writing in general is intersectional as well, which it just naturally, I think being a person of color and being queer, I think just naturally brings up, what do you talk about? Do we bring it all in, or do we kind of handle one thing at a time? But they all kind of intersect. And it's like this really confusing but interesting portal that you enter in of like figuring out how to talk about yourself and what you want to tackle. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting reading, because I think people might show up thinking, is this going to be a very gay reading? And then maybe everyone's talking about class and heavy things. We have no idea what's going to happen. But I know for a fact it will probably be really nice for a lot of people who are going to go and want to be around like in that type of space and thinking they're just going to hear about queer things. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, wow, we all actually have a lot in common or deal with a lot of things aside from our queerness or in addition to. So I think it'll be a really, eye-opening reading. It'll probably be like Lambda. So
I remember last year, Brian Sonia Wallace, who was the poet laureate of West Hollywood, organized an offsite queer reading and just reached out to a bunch of queer authors that he knew were going to be there. And was like, do you want to read? And we were like, sure. And he found this little room above a bar. And then it was like 120 people crammed into this tiny little room above a bar. And like, there wasn't even a stage. Poets would just stand up and read from wherever they were, like surrounded by everyone listening. It was incredible. And what made it gay was that there was a drag show happening downstairs.
Oh my God.
So poetry and drag. I imagine something similar is going to happen with y'all. So I wish you the best of luck. I wish I was going this year. I'm not.
Oh, I wish you were too.
I know, but it's all right because I have you here now. And you can give me a poem now instead of
Okay, great. So this one's called Diamond Finds Belonging. The H is bustling with oil rigs and 20 fuss spots on Westheimer alone. Jobs, so many. Yet my father makes the claim the Mexicans are taking all of them. In this moment, I must just be black to him, not mixed with the blood of a woman who doesn't love him anymore, not mixed with the blood of a people whose ancestors are indigenous to this land, not mixed at all. I'm a bisexual woman in the only lesbian bar in Houston. Where can I find the in-between bar? A girl with braids makes eyes at me. I'm 3 drinks too deep. Dancing bodies bump me as I walk to ask for her number. Eyebrows furrow when she says I'm straight, like it's the most obvious statement she's ever made. Maybe I'm the one who's confused. The neighborhood kids call me a no sabo. They're not wrong. No sabo mi lengua. No sabo mi familia en Mexico. No sabo nada. Pero if la lengua is a part of our cultura, our historia, our familia, what does it mean for me to only know some of it? Why am I always in the middle of knowing? No sabo. Oh, perdona mi abuela. No sé. On the apps, couples swipe on me, asking me to be their unicorn. I'm tired of being sexualized. I'm tired of people seeing past me, not actually trying to understand me. I'm tired of, if she likes this, then she must like this. Honey, you wish. It's a Saturday, and I'm in a new town in Central Texas, drinking coffee and writing poems while my lover laughs in the other room. I don't go to places anymore. I choose my friends. I like to spend my time outside by the trails, feel the shade from the trees. How can you box someone in when the rivers out here go on forever? Thank you.
Wow. I have a question, Diamond. When did you can I ask like when did you come out?
Well, I wasn't really given a chance. So I was in high school and I did have a girlfriend, and I told my mom I was going to this play, and I didn't end up going. And instead, me and my girlfriend like skipped the play, but we didn't keep track of time. And so the play had ended like 30 minutes ago. And my grandma actually came to pick me up, and she's like walking all over the high school searching for me with the principal. And so we go downstairs like, la, la, la. And my grandma sees me and she's like, where have you been? And so they sent me home, and I thought everything was good. I thought no one found out. And then I got called into the office the next day, and they were like, you didn't sign into the log to the musical. We looked at the cameras. We know that you weren't even there. We're going to have to call your mom and tell her. And I was like, well, can you just not tell her that I was with a girl? You know, just like, I'd rather you tell her I was with a boy. And keep in mind, the vice principal was actually a gay man. So I thought he would understand. And he said, I can't, I have to be honest. And so he made me come out to my mom.
So violent. I'm so sorry.
It was very bad. But now I'm just like, well, like,
yes. I was asking because it's just like, I think very much, I came out later when I was like 25. But I do remember the first time I would go to like lesbian and queer bars, and just feeling like I'm in the middle. So what you were describing really hit home. And I think I've definitely been to that Houston lesbian bar, and it is so sad. So, I mean, it is a community, but it is small, and
yes.
It is very white.
Yes. Yes.
And, it is sometimes very uncomfortable, right? Because it's like you're trying to belong where you're immediately hypersexualized, even in queer spaces, because you're a person of color, and you're no longer a human, even within like a queer community, a safe space, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to say thank you for sharing that, because I was like, oh, I'm going back to like my baby queer self of when I first came out and trying to like navigate that of like, I kind of belong here, but I don't belong here. Am I queer enough? Am I not queer enough? Which I think I love that you end it with like, I'm queer enough because I am, and I love to be outside. And that's clear enough for me.
I definitely got a search for belonging out of that
Mhm.
poem I really liked. And I also loved how you incorporated like place and location into that search. I'm curious, like, where have you felt like you most belong?
Honestly, so I moved away and I love Houston and it's sad that it ended up this way. But since I grew up in Houston, I feel like I can't belong there. Maybe I'll go back. But because I grew up there, there's a lot of just spaces where I felt like I didn't belong. And so I moved out here. I'm in Central Texas. I'm doing my program at Texas State. And I have found so many, surprisingly, people of color who are queer or trans. And we're all writers. And it just like, I found something here that really caught me off guard. And I'm surrounded by nature. Like it's actually, yeah. And I get overwhelmed sometimes. I get overstimulated with traffic and lots of crowds and stuff. So I actually really like the small town vibe. So surprisingly, I found myself in Central Texas, which, you know, I never thought I would say that being from Texas, and I was actually really scared to move out here, but it's been really lovely. So I found some belonging here, and it's mostly because of the people that I found.
No.
Talk a little bit more than you're in your MFA program right now, right? So can you tell us a little bit about like how that experience has been for you? Because I've heard some serious horror stories, but also some really fantastic experiences and what you're currently working on.
Yeah.
Take a moment. I feel like no MFA or master's program or any graduate program, we can come out the same person. It is truly horrific.
Yeah, it's well, I'm always tired. And this program demands a lot. So we have a high teaching load. I teach 2 courses in the fall and 1 in the spring, and just the teaching alone drains me. And then I have like night classes. So I'm taking 3 night classes right now. Surprisingly, I feel like as soon as I entered the program, so they actually got some flack for the typical things that you hear about, like all white programs not being receptive to people of color stories. And so they actually kind of seemed to have tried to tackle that when I came in, which I was really grateful for. And the endowed chair at the time was Kali Fajardo-Einstein. And I actually love her work. She was the reason I chose to go here. I knew that she wasn't going to be permanent, but she was going to be here for 2 years. So I was like, that's most of the program. I'll take it. I love her. And so I got to have my first workshop with her, and she treated my stories like better than anyone has ever. And because I think she set the tone for the workshop, everyone else was really good with my work. So that was actually really great. I just kind of feel like I came in the middle of transition. So a lot of our faculty seems to be kind of like ready to leave, and we have new people coming in. And I just feel like I'm in the midst of chaos, and I don't really know who's staying, who's leaving, who's going to be on my thesis, you know, and it's kind of a really weird period to be in this specific program right now. Not that it's a bad program.
You could be honest.
Yeah. You know, I would say I've been enjoying the literature classes the most, which is really funny, but it's because I got to take a Chicano feminisms class with Dr. Sara Ramirez, and she like blew my mind. And then
no way. She's my friend. I went to school with her. Yes. Sara Ramirez. Yes. Oh my God. Stop it. Stop it. She's amazing. Oh my God. This is weird.
Oh my God. Well, she like walks into the class.
Like I was there. I worked with her and everything. What? She's amazing. Okay. No. Okay. I'm getting like goosebumps. I'm like getting really emotional. I feel like I need to go and like text her, like, stop
you
it.
You have to, because like I walk into the classroom, I'm being me, and then I see Dr. Sara Ramirez walk in, and you know how she dresses, and she's so cool and
she's
so
always
smart.
on point. Oh my God.
And I was just like, wait a minute, like what's going on right now, you know? And okay, that's great. So you understand where I'm coming from. So having a class with Dr. Sara Ramirez like changed my life. And then I'm in a class with Dr. Drea Brown right now. We're doing Black Water and Memory. We're talking about like water and memory and how that intersects with Blackness and like all this really just fantastic stuff. And then also my first semester, I got to take a class with Ruben Cesena for like queer feminism literature. And this is like a queer Latinx man. And I'm like around all these kind of like queer adjacent or queer people. Yes. But they're all in the literature program. Yes. So I don't know about that. That's where I'm coming from. Like I've had more fun in the literature program than I have had elsewhere. But in terms of what I'm working on a genre bending collection of short stories that center queer women of color in Texas who they're unlearning westernized teaching. So like everything I've been saying, but there's some creepy things. There's either like magic or there's some sort of horror element or there's dreamscapes. And so, for example, in one of them, this mother like falls ill because her children are not upholding Western expectations that she has. So she wants her daughter to have children and be married, but her daughter's a lesbian. And so her mother like literally just falls sick because she cannot fathom her children not fulfilling her wishes. And her sickness infects the house, which turns into like a haunted house. There's nightmares. There's like ghosts from the past walking around. And it kind of makes the family like come together at the end. Now, I wouldn't say happily. There's a lot of like healing that has to happen, but her sickness makes the house haunted essentially. So that's just kind of an example of how like when our parents or family holds on to things, you know, it can infect the house, you know, what that might not happen literally, but you might not feel safe in your house. Your house might feel scary if your parent doesn't accept you. So I was trying to capture that element. So that's kind of what the collection that I'm working on is about.
Amazing. Like, it's interesting because this last year, I really made an effort to read a lot of like Latina and Latinx novels, right? Especially like with magical realism. And there's so much magical realism or like magic or horror in general, right? Even like thinking of like La Llorona haunting us like multiple generations because we're not good mothers, because we want to have a career or be child free.
Yes.
No, it sounds amazing. I'm also still like, can't believe that, you know, like your
she sits on the board for a Bode.
That stuff. She's so brilliant. Which makes you're in great hands. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that seems super, super exciting. And what other like story? I know that's what you're working on your thesis, but what other kind of stories do you feel like you want to write after your thesis is done? Because sometimes you're so sick of your thesis that you're like, I want to write something completely different.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have anything else?
Yes. So I'm actually working like on a hybrid collection of essays and poetry. And so that's more of the sort of the stuff I'm reading right now, sort of kind of going into my intersections of my family and then writing essays about them because they're probably going to read them and I want them to understand. I want us to have conversations in the future. And I think like by them reading my writing is a good way to have those. And I also feel like there's a lot of people that probably don't realize how much of identities and people intersect. And so I just feel like it's important being in like I don't even know how many identities are just naturally in my body, but there's a lot. And so I just feel like talking about how those are very identical and how sometimes, you know, my family members might not accept one another or stuff like that, thinking that they're very different or they have perceptions, but then they've created me and they love me. And so if they do, then we have to think about maybe we don't not like everyone like we thought we did. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like because I am who I am and where I'm from, being in the South with the beliefs that I have, I do feel like there's a lot that I want to explore in terms of just my intersections personally, because I think a lot of people would be able to relate to that too. And so I like personal writing. And so I did go into the fiction program, but I did write poetry before I went in. And so it's kind of like nice to, when I can't think of what I'm going to do with my stories, to switch over to my poetry and like write some essays because it helps me when I'm having writer's block. So that's my other thing that I have going right now.
That's fantastic. And I think like you're speaking my language, right? That's how I feel. That's a lot of what my work often centers around, because it often gets ignored or like a part of, like, you can't be your whole authentic self sometimes, right? Some places only accept a certain side of you, right? This idea of code switching comes in, and there's just so much to explore there. And please, I will like a copy of each as soon as they're out. Must have. Remind me real quick, when we were at Lambda last year, you were in the speculative fiction group.
Yeah.
y'all were the cool kids.
My cohort was really cool. I felt like I don't know. I feel like I had crushes on all of them. And I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Also, just going to gay camp, as a gay kid, it was like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Also, everyone's just so cool and talented. Like, I can't. But it was just life-changing in so many ways. I don't think I've ever been around that many queer writers in my life. And so it was so much fun. And I really liked being in the speculative fiction cohort. So it was funny. Nobody really wrote genre. No one really wrote like sci-fi, like strictly sci-fi or strictly fantasy. A lot of people sort of like blurred the lines, like how kind of the things that I do is like, I'm going to have a haunted house, but it's based in Houston, you know? And so I felt like a lot of the writers there were like, I'm going to have a portal, but we still have the real world. So everybody was kind of blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. And it was a really unique cohort. And I think that's because K-Ming chose us. And I think that's what she wanted the cohort to be. So, because her writing is like that. It's very like slipstream. It's very like blurring between realities and things like that. And I think that's maybe why I realized we all kind of wrote similarly, but very different. And so it was nice. It was like a very interesting speculative fiction cohort.
Yeah. 1000%. I remember having my mind blown when like the faculty let us know, like, no, we picked you. Like, like you like me? I feel so loved. Yes. So that was the past. We're in the present. We like to finish wrap up our segment by thinking about the future, right? And so as you start thinking about like what's in your future, what's coming down the pipeline for you, we ask this question of everyone to close us out. What would the title of the poem for the next chapter of your life be?
Ooh. Maybe something like Resistance is a God or Resistance is a Goddess.
Ooh.
Love it.
I just got goosebumps. Okay. That's amazing. I want to read that poem.
I do too.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us, Diamond. I am so excited for what you're doing and can't wait to see how far you are going to take this, because I see great things in your future.
I do too. I definitely do too. This was a fantastic conversation. I'm looking forward to reading all your works and putting it on my list and like sending it out to all my friends too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really loved this.
We do.
We loved it too.
That's a selfish endeavor. Like we do this for ourselves so much.
We do.
From all over. Like Rocky and I always walk away from these conversations feeling full and blessed to just be able to facilitate these conversations. So no, it's thank you. If people want to find you or your work, if you want to be found, where can they do that?
Yeah, so my website is Diamond, spelled just like how it sounds. Giselle, Gizelle, Braxton, like Tony Braxton.com. And then I am at Diamond G Braxton, pretty much on everything. So,
and Abode is
at Abode Press on everything, and then our website is abodepress.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Diamond. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Brian.
They are a powerhouse.
Oh, super. I really much enjoy that conversation. Just like every segment, I feel like my feelings are on blast. I feel like, wow, she didn't have to say that so loud. They didn't have to say it so loud for everything. And I really did enjoy what Diamond had to say, just being vulnerable, kind of talking about that in-betweenness, trying to belong as a person of color, as a queer person, as well as just what is life in this weird, weird time.
What is human race and why are we here? No, but I think Diamond is the perfect example of like, if you build it, they will come, right?
Oh, yeah.
And having that's always the hardest part, is like just having the faith that the community will respond in a positive way to this silly little idea you had, right? And and to see it grow as big as it has in such a small amount of time and is just incredible. And nothing but flowers will be given.
All the flowers. I love it. I love that. It just feels very familiar. It feels very welcoming, just like an abode.
Just like an abode. All right. Well, I'm going to go spend some time in my abode. So we want to thank the listeners for tuning in because we would not be here without you. Actually, we probably would still be here, but
we appreciate you listening, sparing your ear, whatever you want to spare.
Thank you. Thank you for hanging around with us.
Great. And we also want to give a huge thank you to the person who produced our theme music. If you like bop with us to like that little bass, that is because of the brilliant Chris Conde. He is amazing. So thank you.
Supporting queer artists. Also, thank you to Write Art Out and the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture, whose support has helped produce this podcast.
Yeah. And if you just are interested to see what we're doing outside of this podcast, you can follow us on IG and Twitter. Yes, Twitter. We refuse that fascist other name. So it is at words and shh. That it is left out. So the words and shh.
You can watch or listen to past episodes on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, because we have more than 75 episodes.
I know. We've been trucking along. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate and review us, okay? You can follow us on any of those social media accounts or the YouTube or anywhere you listen to our podcast. Just show us some love. We love it when our audience shows us love, and it also, gives some love to our guests as well. So thank you so much.
And really helps us get the word out about the podcast so that more people can discover the incredible writers that we feature. Until next time, y'all, stay safe out there.
Bye.